Welcome back to the Parenting Lab. We are just a few days away from my favorite holiday of the year, Mother's Day. I love it. I love it so much. But I know that some of you don't. So that's why I think it's important to spend some time today exploring that. Commercially, Mother's Day is one of those days that's supposed to feel really good, right? It's supposed to feel light and celebratory and full of appreciation for you to send lovely cards to your mom or maybe your mother-in-law, and for your kids to spend the day spoiling you and getting along. And maybe sometimes it all works out that way. Your husband nails it. You get some time to yourself. Your kids shower you with the cutest homemade cards. And at the end of the day, you feel loved and appreciated and valued. Like what you're doing as a mom is actually mattering to someone. But if we're being honest, if we take just a step underneath that surface level for just a minute, Mother's Day can also feel complicated. There can be this quiet pressure to feel grateful, to feel happy, or to enjoy the day, no matter what it actually feels like inside. And for a lot of women, there's something else there too. It's a little bit of disappointment. It's feeling unseen, even in the middle of being celebrated. For some people, it brings up grief, longing, old wounds, parts of you that don't usually get your attention in the middle of everyday life. And those parts don't disappear just because someone hands you flowers. They actually tend to get a little louder and come a little bit closer to the surface. So instead of trying to make this day fit into what it's supposed to be, I want to offer a different way of looking at it. Last year at this time, I offered you the perspective of making Mother's Day all about you and focusing not on how your kids appreciate you, but how you can take the time to appreciate the experience of being their mom, to really just spend the day loving motherhood, where you are in it, regardless of what other people are doing. And this year, I want to take it even further. What if Mother's Day isn't just about celebrating the mother you are to everyone else? What if it's also an opportunity to care for the parts of you that still need mothering? This is the framework of remothering. And as I introduce this, I want to keep it really simple because it can sound like one of those terms that feels a little like, ooh, out there or hard to connect to, but it's actually something that I think we can all really relate to and find meaning in. Remothering yourself is simply the practice of learning to give yourself what you needed but didn't consistently receive. And this is not about blaming your parents, especially your mom, or erasing their effort like it didn't matter. It's not about going back and picking apart everything that was or wasn't done right, or making a list of every time your mom didn't show up for you. That is never productive, and it rarely serves anyone in a meaningful way. Instead, what it is about recognizing something really honest, and that's that every single one of us had moments growing up where we needed something, and that need wasn't met. Maybe you needed more comfort and you were told to just toughen up. Maybe you needed to be seen and noticed, but were overlooked or misunderstood. Maybe you needed support, but you learned how to handle things on your own really early. And sometimes it was even more subtle than that. Maybe nothing was wrong, but there just wasn't space for all of the parts of you. Your emotions, your needs, your sensitivity, even your voice. And over time, we adapt to that. We learn to function in the environment we're in. We learn what gets us connection and what puts us at risk of losing it. So we become easier, quieter, more independent, more helpful, less emotional, less needy. We take up less space. Not because that's who we truly are, but because that's what felt safe. And then we grow up. And now we're the ones holding everything. We're the ones showing up for everyone else and managing the emotions and meeting the needs and keeping things running. But at the same time, there are still those parts of us that never stopped needing the same things we needed back then. And that is where remothering comes in. It's not about becoming a different person. It's about becoming someone who can stay with yourself in the moments where you used to have to leave yourself in order to make someone else feel more comfortable. And this doesn't just stay in the past. It's not buried and forgotten in our subconscious. It shows up right in the middle of your everyday parenting, in those moments that feel bigger than they should feel, in the reactions that you have, the ones you sometimes wish you didn't have. Because when someone else is overwhelmed or emotional or dysregulated or needing something from you, like our families tend to do, that need doesn't just meet the parent or the person that you are right now in this moment. It meets every version of you that learned how to survive all the way up to this point. So when your child is melting down, your body reacts. Maybe your throat tightens or your chest feels heavy. You feel that heat, not just because of the noise or the chaos, but because somewhere along the way you learned that big emotions weren't safe or acceptable or manageable. So your response isn't just about this particular moment. It's coming from a place that says, this is too much. I don't know what to do with this. Another example is that maybe your child needs you again and again and again and again. And instead of just feeling present, you feel overwhelmed and depleted, maybe even resentful. Not because you don't love them, of course not, but because maybe there was a time that you had to be independent too soon, when your needs didn't get met in the same way. And now your system is saying, I don't have capacity for this. They should be doing this on their own by now. Maybe you notice that you have a craving to feel appreciated or acknowledged, or to have someone say, I see how much you're doing. And when that doesn't happen, it hurts more than you expect, because it's not just about today. It's touching something older, something deeper, that feeling of being unseen or overlooked. And this is the part that's really important to understand. None of this means you're doing anything wrong. It just means that your nervous system, your patterns, your history are still active in the way that you are showing up. Because parenting isn't just about our kids and what we do to or for our kids. We parent from the places where we were once left alone or overlooked or wounded. And until those places are acknowledged, they tend to keep speaking for us. We just might not be aware of it. And this is where it really gets interesting, especially from a healing perspective, because when those needs are still there, which they are for all of us in some way, we don't just ignore them. We start to look for them to be met, sometimes in ways we don't even realize or understand because they're so subtle. We want to feel appreciated, so we hope our kids or our partner notice how much we're doing. We want to feel close, so we lean on them for connection. We want to feel valued, so their behavior starts to feel like a reflection of our worth. And again, this makes so much sense. There's nothing wrong with wanting those things. Those are real human needs. Connection and value are essential. But this is where it gets complicated, right? Because when we start to look for other people, especially our kids, to meet those needs or to fill that space, it creates pressure. Not in an obvious way. It's not like you're saying, hello, child, you are responsible for my happiness. It's stealthier than that. It's where they start to feel how they show up is affecting how okay we are. And that's a lot for a child to hold, because your child's job isn't to regulate your worth or to make sure that you feel seen or to meet needs that went unmet in your own story. They were never meant to carry the weight of our wounds. And when we don't realize this is happening, we can start to feel hurt or disconnected when they don't meet us there, when they don't appreciate, or when they pull away, or when they're just being kids in whatever stage of development they're in. And suddenly this starts to feel personal. But what's actually happening is that that old need is just still looking for someone to meet it. And this is where remothering becomes really powerful. Because instead of asking your child or someone else directly or indirectly to meet that need, you start learning to meet yourself there. Okay? Not perfectly, not all at once, but just enough that no one else has to carry it for you. So what does this actually look like in real life? Not in theory, not just this woo-woo concept that floats around, the actual practice of remothering. I promise this isn't crazy, and it's actually really grounded in simplicity, okay? None of these things are new to you. We're just going to be putting them together in a new way. And it starts with a shift from pushing through to paying attention, from overriding yourself to staying with yourself. And there are a few ways that this can begin to take shape, okay? The first is just seeing yourself clearly. Not fixing, not judging, not immediately trying to change what you feel, but just noticing it, naming it, letting it be real for just a second. So instead of saying, I shouldn't feel this way, it becomes, oh yeah, of course this feels hard. Okay, that alone can be a completely different experience in your body. All right, this is the beginning of the work. It's understanding your inner experience without rushing through it, because awareness is always where this starts. And then after that, there's soothing instead of pushing through. So many of us were taught to override our needs. This might have been direct in environments where we were told that our needs didn't matter or the good of the family came first or whatever. But it also may have been indirect, and that would have been by watching our own moms put themselves last or neglect their own needs and feelings, to just keep going, to stay productive, to not make a big deal out of things. So remothering for us might look like pausing instead of pushing through, taking a breath, stepping away for just a minute, letting yourself rest without needing to earn it first. All right? Then this leads directly to creating safety for yourself, not waiting for the environment to calm down, but becoming someone who can offer that steadiness internally from within. Another piece of this is giving yourself what you needed back then. And this doesn't have to be complicated. It might be as simple as sounding like, it makes sense that this feeling feels overwhelming. Okay, I'm here. I've got you. Simple, but very different from the voice that most of us are used to. This is the heart of the healing work. It's going back, not to relive the past, but to respond to it differently. And then there's something that doesn't always get talked about as part of this, but it is essential. And that's holding boundaries with yourself and your life. Okay, not overextending, not saying yes when everything in you is saying no, not abandoning yourself to keep everything running smoothly for everyone else. Because remothering isn't just soft and comforting, it's also protective. It's literally protecting you, the parts of you that needed protection then. It's choosing over and over again not to leave yourself in the moments where you used to. And this is really what the entire journey of remothering is about. Not doing it all at once, not doing it perfectly, but slowly becoming someone who can stay, who can listen, who can respond, who can care for yourself in a way that maybe you didn't always receive. Okay, I want to take just a minute here and slow this down a little. I want you to take a few minutes and reflect on this with me. So, if you're in a place where you can, you might close your eyes or soften your focus or just take a breath. Nothing big, nothing forced, just letting yourself arrive here for a second in this moment. And I want you to think about a younger version of you. Not the version you think you should choose, okay? Just the one that comes to mind first. Maybe it's you as a child. Maybe you're a teenager. Maybe just a younger version of you in a moment that felt hard. And just notice her for a second. What she felt like, what she carried, and what she needed. Without trying to change anything, I want you just to notice. And then gently ask yourself, what did she need more of that she didn't always receive? Was it comfort? Was it someone to really see her? Was it support or reassurance? Space to feel? And then another question. What did she learn she had to do to be okay? Did she learn to stay quiet, to be helpful, to not need too much, to figure things out on her own, maybe to do things perfectly? Just notice without judgment. And now I want you to imagine sitting with her, not fixing anything, not rushing her out of it, but just being there. And if it feels okay, you might offer her something simple, a few words or a feeling, or maybe even just a sense of presence, a feeling of, I see you, I'm here, you make sense, I'm with you. And just notice what that feels like in your body, even if it's unfamiliar, even if it's small, even if it's uncomfortable. This is where remothering begins. It's not in big changes, but in moments like this, where you stay in presence instead of abandoning yourself, where you respond instead of overriding your own needs. And you don't have to do all of it today. You don't have to go back and figure everything out. It's just one moment of doing something differently. That is enough. I want to come back to where we began. this idea of Mother's Day and what it's supposed to look like. The celebration and the appreciation, the recognition, and how those things are so beautiful. They matter, but maybe they're not the whole picture. Maybe Mother's Day isn't just about what's given to you or even what you give to others. Maybe it's also about how you learn to show up for yourself. Not in a way that replaces connection with the people you love, but in a way that makes it more real and more authentic and more sustainable. Because when you start to care for yourself differently, when you start to notice your needs and respond to them, to stay with yourself in the hard times, you transform. You become less reactive and more aware and more grounded in who you actually want to be. And that doesn't just change how you feel, it changes how you show up. It changes how your children experience you. Because the way you learn to care for yourself becomes the way your children learn what care feels like. Not from what you say, but from who you are. From the way you speak to yourself, the way you handle hard things, the way you stay instead of leaving. I've often heard it said in the parenting world that we should parent our children in the way that we wish we had been parented. And while that idea does create a lovely frame around generational healing, it doesn't really hold up in practice because our children are not us. They don't have the same experiences, the same wounds, or even the same needs that we did. When we try to parent them based on what we were missing, we can unintentionally place our past in the center of the relationship instead of their present. Because if all you give them is everything you never had, they will be full of what you needed, but empty in the ways that matter to them the most. In reality, what actually creates healing is something deeper. It's this practice of remothering or refathering yourself. This is not only the work of women. It's learning to give yourself the care and support and understanding that may not have been consistently available to you. It's changing the way you relate to yourself within parenting instead of trying to be the parent you needed for your child. Because when you begin to meet those needs, you're not parenting from a place of depletion or unaddressed pain or unconscious wounds anymore. You're not trying to resolve your past through your child. Instead, you can see them more clearly and respond with more intention and offer what they actually need in real time. That is how patterns are interrupted. And that is how generational healing really happens. All right? If this stirred something in you today, if you felt yourself in any part of this, I created a companion ebook that's going to go along with this episode to help you go deeper into this work. It's not about adding more to your plate. It's really more about giving you space to reflect and understand and to begin practicing this in your own way. Because this isn't something you figure out in one day. It's something that you come back to over and over again. The ebook is called Remothering Yourself, a journey back to safety, wholeness, and inner guidance. And it's for the woman who is trying to parent differently while still carrying the weight of how she was parented herself. Because awareness alone doesn't change patterns. You can understand attachment and you can learn nervous system tools and you can know exactly how you want to respond and still find yourself reacting in ways that feel disconnected from the kind of parent that you want to be. Because unresolved wounds don't disappear when we become parents. Parenting actually magnifies them. Real generational healing happens when we stop trying to resolve our past through our children and begin learning how to care for ourselves differently within the experience of parenting. And that is the work that this ebook invites you into. Okay, so if you're feeling called to it, the link is going to be in the show notes, or you can find that at theparentinglab.org. I hope your perspective on Mother's Day is expanding. Motherhood is so much more nuanced and complex and rewarding than a single day can hold. So connect with what is feeling fulfilling, redefine the norm, and make this holiday one that can embody love and connection and healing in the deepest and most meaningful ways. I am always grateful that you spend this time with me. I will see you all next week here in the Parenting Lab, where we will continue to explore the art and science of parenting and put your parenting to the test. Take care, everyone.